Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of For the People, By the People. I'm Jahvaun, not Josiah, and today we're here with a special guest. His name is Parthi Kandavel, and he'll tell you a little about himself. Counselor, not councilman, both.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first question is, who are you and what do you do?
Good question. I'm Parthi Kandavel. I grew up in this community of South Scarborough Southwest, from grade 1, grade 2, and became a teacher after high school and became city councillor and also school trustee before that, and been in the area for more than 30 years, almost 40 actually. And as a councillor, you deal with a number of issues, whether it's potholes on the streets, TTC, police, hydro, electricity, a lot of issues of the day-to-day that families and individuals face are city services. So we help solve problems. We also make decisions as part of city council. There are 25 of us and the mayor, who of course gives the leadership and the direction. And as a council, we make decisions on policy, on budget, and the direction of the city.
Okay, my second question. What made you want to get into that more political field and city and just like helping out others? What made you want to go and do that job promotion or like that creativity?
A good question. I think it probably goes back to my family. We actually came here as refugees, and I think that was always part of. I probably didn't realize it at the time, but I think had a sensitivity to when government works badly, it impacts people's lives. Of course, that was the impact on my family's history. So I always had that interest. I studied political science and math at the University of Waterloo. And always had that interest. And as a teacher, you see every day the impact you make. And certainly I see that with great teachers here at Birchmount Park who really impact the lives of students.
Have a lot of great teachers.
I know, I see that. And I'm really grateful for that as a counselor, because that's what makes a community really great. And I had that experience, the gratitude and the joy of teaching elementary. And, I think part of that was looking at how do I help make systemic decisions that are part of how lives are impacted on a broader scale. As teachers, it's every day with students in your classroom and in the school community. So that always interested me. Became a trustee, served 8 years, including for Birchmount Park. And then when there was an opening for councillor, I gave it a shot and very grateful to be elected. And tough role. You got to have thick skin, but you learn a lot and you have an opportunity to serve.
Okay, so my third question. What opportunities does the city of Toronto offer for high school students? Because we're talking about students. So.
Exactly. And that was something I've provided leadership for. In the end of 2024 and early 25, I pushed with the Toronto Youth Cabinet. There's a young leader called Stephen Mensah, and we pushed for the city to play a leading role in creating youth employment opportunities. I think that's one of the biggest challenges we've seen in the last few years, young people getting employment. It was never the case when I was in high school many moons ago. It wasn't that hard to get a job at Cineplex or at at a fast food joint, Walmart even, right? So that's changed a lot. So we pushed for the city to play a role. There are opportunities within Parks and Rec to gain employment. Is it where we want it to be? No, but we've made some improvement in bringing in the private sector and nonprofits and connecting those opportunities with the young people. Oftentimes, to get a job, you have to know people. So creating those opportunities to network has been one role. The other thing is the programming that the cities should offer, and that's something that I've done with TCHC, so Toronto Community Housing. We've brought in refurbishments to basketball courts, etc. So these are small improvements that create opportunities for programming, but ultimately, like next door, Birchmount Community Center, having a drop-in basketball nights, volleyball, even pickleball, and I highly encourage those of you give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. It looks kind of silly, but it's a lot of fun.
It is fun, yeah.
So the city's core responsibility when it comes to young people is to create some of these employment opportunities, but also programming that reflects the needs of young people in regardless of which neighborhood.
Yeah, because I feel like even right now, our generation, it's really hard for us to get employment. We have to know how to network and know that friend or that friend of a friend. So it's like just hearing that you guys are planning on giving us more jobs, which it might, in my defense, it's not going as fast as we would like.
Of course not.
And as fast as you guys would like, because you guys don't want us out and getting into trouble and all this in the summer. But just hearing that you guys have that impact on us is really a lot. My fourth question, my bad, is how is the city supporting students' mental health and well-being, especially in today's society where we have media representation of Black people, negative portrayals, social media, bullying, all of that? How are you guys planning on creating programs that can help us with deals with these problems and these issues?
I think the main way is through offering programming that's relevant, whether it's sports, whether it's arts and crafts, through certain community centers. That's obviously a younger demographic, but it is a good question. And I think part of understanding the role of government is that it's not static with one level. What does that mean? The provincial government, which looks over education, has a role to play, right? So how does the city complement what school boards and schools are doing is an important question. So one of the things that we're looking to help advance is this really unique and great relationship that Birchmount Park has with Variety Village, and now we're trying to extend that with Birchmount Community Center. So we're very lucky to have these three great assets: great school, great Variety Village, and Birchmount Community Center. And how do we now offer the programming or memberships at say Variety Village that bring about those opportunities? Because in to the two questions, a good job and great sports opportunities are, in my opinion, the best thing we can give young people. Of course, besides it, a strong education, and that's something we can do with both the community center and Variety Village. Because I'm sure you see it, Jahvaun, when you have a good workout in or play a great game, that boosts your self-esteem and mental well-being.
Everybody's there at Birchmount Community. Basketball games they're fun. By fifth or sixth question, I can't even remember.
Oh, it doesn't matter the order of the number.
Let's move through them.
Yeah.
So my question is, how can students, with the changes to OSAP and everything that's changed today, because we feel like we now have more financial burden and we're worried about money and where we're going to find this in our first year especially, how can students better prepare for post-secondary and career development in today in the society that where the jobs are mostly in nursing, being a doctor, being a lawyer, and not in the regular jobs that we used to have in the day in business and marketing. So how can we better prepare for career and post-secondary after high school?
That's a really good question. I think the reality of life, and was true when I was your age, and is there's uncertainty. There's a level of uncertainty. You do not know what's going to happen, right? And I think embracing that mentally is a good opportunity to build resilience. Having said that, there's no easy answer. Part of it is, as I mentioned, networking and growing your kind of ability to find employment or opportunities to grow. I think the reality, especially, I don't want to go into like a big tech conversation about AI, is that work is changing. And I think as young people stay connected to good networks and good people to provide opportunities, getting your foot in the door through those networks is critical. Finding your passion and purpose, I know that's cliche, is so important. In fact, what I forgot to mention is before I became a teacher, I worked for 2 years at Bell, and it was like a mind-numbing, in my opinion, job behind a computer looking at numbers, and it wasn't for me. Like the 8 hours felt like 20. And whereas when I became a teacher, the day went by because it was passion and purpose driven. So finding your niche, whether it's culinary arts, it could be data analysis for some people, and for some it's working in media, right? Finding your passion and really pouring everything into it. Obviously getting some level of post-secondary education,
which is important,
is critical. And getting internships. You mentioned you have a mentor, right? Like that's critical to find folks who can kind of open up new paths for you.
Yeah, and I didn't find my mentor till this year. So it's just like finding that person who sees that you're going to accomplish great things, and finding your purpose in life at an early age is actually very important. So I thank you for saying that. And so another question is, what improvements are being made to public transit and transportation for students?
Good question.
The cost to go on a TTC bus nowadays is almost like $3, and me going to Oshawa, $4 for additional $4 for where you're at is crazy.
Yeah, that's a bigger question, but I think I don't know if you're old enough, but I think the crosstown. So from Kennedy going all across, Eglinton, opened up obviously earlier this year, but it took 16 years. Shouldn't have taken that long, right? So we have a serious problem, and this is not about one government. It's about multiple that saw this, considerable delay happen. So we need to be better and smarter. With the Scarborough subways coming in, public transit is a boon. I took it every day during high school, back when it was 5 years, to get to school and to town center, to my job, everything. So that's a duty provincial, federal, and city governments have. What I'm advocating for is, taking that crosstown that stops at Kennedy. It needs to go all the way along Eglinton, up Kingston to UFT Scarborough campus. So that's being planned for. It needs to be funded. So that's the big thing. City of Toronto is advocating to get that funding from the provincial and federal governments.
So we're just as we're talking here. So TTC will never be free.
There's an argument to make it free, because the city did that for 12 and under, right?
Yeah.
I think we need to develop the political will of making it free. So I would say for high school and below, so 17
students. Yeah.
But I think one generation at a time, or one set, so going from 12 to 17, and it would make it much easier when bus drivers are being held up because you've got like 20 kids getting on the bus.
One time
it would make it easier if they just all get in without having to pay, right?
Exactly.
So that's something I think higher levels of government, because most of our taxes actually go, 90% of our taxes go to the federal and provincial. And this is not an excuse to let the city off the hook, but we don't have as much money as the federal and provincial, right?
No system's perfect, but we're working on it. We're working on it, right? So
exactly. But I think you make an excellent policy suggestion that needs to be championed, getting TDC free for high school kids.
Okay, another question. We're gonna 2 more questions on students, and then we'll try and shift the topic.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so what financial support, grants, or resources are available to students succeed?
That's a good question. So post-secondary and all education is with the province, right? So I know the cuts to OSAP. It took me a long time to pay off my OSAP following university, but it was such an important boon. I didn't have to think about money while I was a student, right? So hopefully those cuts get reversed and grants are given. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But the city doesn't fund education. It's completely the province.
Yeah, I feel like with the OSAP cuts, specifically talking to myself and a few of my friends, just because personally, I'm a family of 6, single mother, right? Wow. So I'm paying my own means to go to university and dorm with my brother. And of course, university is a big step in our lives, especially as we grow up. And with the world that's happening today, we see a lot of violence and a lot of networking and social media because we can connect to one another, right? So I feel that for me, I don't want to take OSAP at first because I was afraid it's going to take me 15, 20 years to pay back OSAP money in this economy, which $1 million for a house. Well, by the time I'm 30, it's going to be $2 million. I might not be able to afford it, but we're going
But the fact that you're thinking like that is commendable. And hats off to your mom for raising 6 of you with such diligence.
And she's 3 at one time. So it's like, even being in grade 12 and I'm about to graduate in a week, it's about just seeing that the OSAP changes and then I have to find another financial means. It's going to be hard, but it's not I'm not going to go.
It's such a good point. I'm happy you raised that, because oftentimes older generations will put down your generation. And I think you guys have it much harder than many of us, right? The prospects of youth employment are more difficult. You're getting the OSAP cuts. There aren't any clear pathways to good careers, at least for those who don't have privilege and connections. So, I hope that this conversation reaches the ears of older generations and they recognize, as I said before, getting a job when I was your age was much easier, right? So you guys have unfortunately a tougher path, but I think you guys are resilient enough.
If you think about it, it's like the generations that came before us, right? With slavery, abolishment, each generation has their own trial and thing to face. We might be harder because you guys might feel like we're lazy and we have way too many video games and too many iPhones. I'm just saying, but it's like each generation comes with their own sets of problems. Not everybody. And I'm as a councilman, right, and a counselor, and even being a TDSB. What were you?
Trustee
at one point, right? It's like each student has their own sets of criteria to face.
Yeah.
And maybe they're dealing with a lot of stuff at home, and that you might not always be able to see.
Yeah.
Might be able to see, but it's like even with those, it's just that if we can understand each other more, and you guys can understand our generation and the way we see the world today, it will help us a lot. So thank you.
That's a brilliant point, and that's something I don't think our generation really recognizes and values, is those different perspectives. It's very insightful of you, Jahvaun.
Yeah, because it's like every single law that has come down to our generation today, it has been modified in some way for everyone, right? So life may be hard, is gonna be way harder as we grow up, because that's all about adulthood. But sometimes we just have to push through it, and maybe when we're the future leaders of tomorrow of Canada.
Jahvaun, I'll go a bit off script. Have you given teaching?
I've definitely thought about teaching. I've thought about
I think you would be an outstanding teacher. I was around teachers for 12 years. I could spot a good potential teacher. My parents were teachers, grandparents were teachers back. So
my passion,
I hope you consider it.
My passion in life is just to help people, and to make sure that one kid that looks like me. And I found, I'm just shout out Mr. A,
shout out,
and Mr. Dixon. Poppy's not here, but they actually helped me see that I was always a hard worker, but they helped me enhance my critical thinking and make me want to try more, come to school more, and just be my best self. So it's like I've been told by numerous people that I should be a teacher or somewhere in law or policies, but I just think that no matter what I do in life, I want to help the next generation, the kids that look like me and the kids that are younger and the kids that I don't know.
It's the most important job in any society, is the teacher.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. For our generation, right? And I just turned 18, so I'm allowed to vote now. How critical and how much do you emphasize that voting is critical at our age, and just to learn about it for us to vote?
It's so important. And it's not just voting. It's talking amongst your peer group about what's happening, your opinions. I think that's critical, especially in this age of AI, right? AI is solving a lot of problems, but it doesn't have the ability to think critically. And this is why teaching matters, why tech matters, because you can write a great essay now with AI. Put your thoughts in, and it'll produce something. So in my opinion, as a former teacher and somebody involved in policies, we need to think more about critical thinking and how we think. And that, I think, comes back to the value that's there for your generation, is that ability to think critically, and that informs who we elect, what type of parties, people that are in positions of power to make decisions. So more than just voting, I think, it's always a question, how do we get young people to vote engaged, right? And I think part of it is through things like what you're doing, social media discussion, having critical engagement and discussion.
I also think for our generation, I feel like that we're so addicted to technology and our phones sometimes that we don't really actually look up and see what other people are going through and what's happening in the world. So even like AI, I remember I had an AP exam and we were reading about how AI will never be able to catch up to human intelligence and human intellect, because it can't understand emotions. It in one of my reports that I did in school, it can't decide the decisiveness or even look at facial recognition between a darker tone of woman. Right? So AI is not going to be always the best, but with AI, you're not learning. This year, I did so much reading, and I hate to read. I don't know how bad I can say that I don't like to read. But now, as I took my AP course, Afro-Canadian Diaspora, the first time the school and city actually brought it into schools, I learned a lot more about in-depth about how the world is and about how important reading and knowing your knowledge, ethnocentric ideals, European ideals are very important for us to know. So I feel like with AI, although it's super easy to just get away with it. Well, not easy, because you'll get caught. It's just super easy to use like that. Just putting in that work and knowing what you're talking about and being able to be in these rooms is very important. Okay.
That's good to hear. Good to hear that.
How can schools and the city of Toronto work together to better support students? Because we all come from different cliques, different backgrounds. We all come from different races and ethnicities and different traumas and struggles. I've certainly experienced some traumas and struggles that at a young age I had to deal with my brother's incarceration, father's abandonment sometimes. But it's also how do you guys be able to connect to each different student and have them get the support that they need?
It's a very good question. one of the things in Ontario and in Toronto is our school system is separate from the city. New York City is different. They're all under one system. And the reason I bring that example is I think there's a lot of potential if we combined resources. To give you a practical example, we don't have the capital dollars to build, say, community centers, which I think would be a great resource for young people who are disengaged to go find a mentor, play sports, find some programming. But schools are not used after 4 o'clock, right? So this is being talked about, but we need one system to operationalize. How do we get schools to act as de facto community centers, right? So that's one of the things that I think we can have better collaboration. To your question about how do schools and cities work together, is how do we provide programming to young people, effective programming in the schools, because on the weekends they're dead. It's not used, right?
We're at home,
yeah, exactly. So that's one of the ways I think the city can support schools with student engagement.
I also think, do you agree? I also think that it's also, as a black student and a black male, it's also the black representation that we have in schools. There's not a lot of black teachers. I've had one black teacher all 4 years of high school, which is sad to say.
That is.
And some people don't experience that, but based off what I've read and what I've learned is that the black teachers are the last ones to be hired and the first ones to be fired. So it's just literally. So it's just understanding that tone and how do we get more black representation in school and black representation in media and today in Toronto.
It's a good question. So when I was a trustee, we, when I came in 2014, there was, of my 50, so in my ward, there was about 30 schools. So in total, 50 principals and vice principals. And sadly, less than 5 were non-white. And as a trustee, you don't select principals, but you play a part in the process. So over my years, we got more diversity, particularly with black administrators, who in turn, understand representation and of course understand merit and good teaching and made a more reflective. So I think at the elementary level we had success, we had progress of having more representative staff. At the secondary level, I agree, I'm not seeing it as much, right?
Yeah, because I feel in the secondary level, especially in high school, I feel like when you're a middle school teacher, in middle school, my bad, especially me being a kid in French immersion, I had some black representation, 2 black teachers, but it wasn't as critically impacted or had an impact on me when I went to high school, because at that age you're learning more about the world. You're learning more about racism. You're learning more about segregation and different types, and how black people have stereotypes they have to go through, and other races have stereotypes they have to go through. So I feel like, especially in secondary and high school, the black representation and diverse representation is actually more critical and needed, because we can just come to school and understand that the teacher understands what we're going through, or that they look like us, or that we can be one of them one day, and they can just be that representation for us.
Completely agree. In my opinion, you change the most in high school than any other period. Just even physically, how you look in grade 9 to 12 is drastically different.
I can't remember that.
And but more than physically, just emotionally, mentally, spiritually, it's the most rate of change. And having mentors, teachers that know and can identify and speak to that experience is so critical. So we've seen some progress, but I agree, not the amount we need. We
might not get there next year when I'm in post-secondary, but just knowing that hopefully in the next 5 to 3 years that a kid who was once like me can just see diverse representation in schools of teachers, it would be critical.
And I feel another argument for you to strongly consider Teachers College in a couple of years.
It's 1 year. Is it true that you guys are changing Teachers College to 1 year now?
The province. So remember, education comes under the province, so they made that decision to go from 2 years to 12 months, which is essentially 1 year, which might be a good thing. To me, I think you learn more on the job and through mentors, careers, as opposed to the 2 year program, which put you into more practicums. Who knows? I think it's apples and oranges, but getting teachers into the classroom and getting good mentors would be better.
And those kids who actually want to see their students' lives changed and want them to have great success. So my last question: what challenges do you see students facing today? Other than AI, other than artificial intelligence, we just talked about.
Good question. So I'm out of the obviously the school space, and obviously AI is the big thing, changing education, changing work. I think it's how we find, and I'll go a little off off the beaten path. And I think it's finding purpose and finding spirituality, right? And I don't mean spirituality in the religious sense, but the ability to connect with your inner purpose and finding harmony in the universe and being able to build the self-confidence that comes from faith and from spirituality, however you describe it, right? It could be a certain religion, or it could just be the universe.
So I understand what you're saying.
And I think that too, not just for young people, I think humans in general, but particularly for young people, when there's so much access to information at your fingertips, how do you find the core pillars to live your life, find purpose, and solve problems? I think is probably a challenge for everyone, but more so when you're young and uncertain.
I agree, because mostly in high school, until some people get to grade 12 or grade 11, they don't know their passion, they don't know what they want to do. So just finding that at an early age will help them instrumentally. Well, that's a wrap. That was the last question.
Awesome. No,
but I just want to say thank you for coming and helping me learn more about you and more about how the city's helping students. So just thank you very much. No problem. Jahvaun, hats off to you. You great questions, thought-provoking, and really appreciate and admire your leadership. And I want you, and I am confident you're going to continue this at Western and come back to Scarborough. Yeah, I will definitely. And maybe as a teacher, maybe as a mentor. I told Mr. Harry he's not getting rid of me. So awesome. Awesome. Thank you, man.